Alright, greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Beehive State, which is also known as Utah. And today's date is actually Tuesday, August 16th, 2016. On the East Coast is Wednesday right now, early morning Wednesday. Yeah, I'm just, just scoping out a few things. Sometimes you got miscommunications. It does happen. And, just one of those areas, but just try to get all that reconfigured. However, I know I've been keeping tabs what's going on in the greater Milwaukee area with the police shooting incident, and people decide to claim that people want to beat up on innocent folks, burn down businesses and their neighborhoods, which is very unbeneficial, counterproductive. Of course, they'll be going after Sheriff Clark too, trying to scapegoat him. And you got other groups out there, funded organizations, people out there marching around and just doing their thing. Really just unacceptable, all in good faith. It's like the game of divide and rule and the JJS, I call it, which is the Jim Jones syndrome. People are angry and so forth. But you got to choose your battles a lot more wisely. As I recall, even time happened in Los Angeles, even in Miami-Dade County in the 80s, police-related incidences and people try to folks to burn their neighborhoods. Still suffering from that, even to this day, like over 30 years ago. Sometimes you have to really observe who's going to benefit from this. Of course, I know the people still want to talk about nationalizing the police, federalizing it, or having UN sanctioned cops, with that format, which is a lot more treacherous than they have now. It's just another morose state of affairs, I would say, with them. It's just an example of what's going on, and of course, the rest of the world. People are suffering and so forth, hating one another, and I don't know why. They're angry. Let's go beat up an innocent person, take them out of their cars, and beat their brains in. How astute. That's what we call criminals when you do that. It doesn't matter what you look like, where you're from. But you try to use common sense instead of getting that robbed with mind control manifestation of psyops. I'm not going to be really talking about that because everyone else is jumping on the bandwagon and so forth. But it has to stop because those bastards want it to pursue so they can control every single one of us into the road of a technocratic plantation. To anyone out there in Milwaukee, greater Milwaukee area, who's involved in this, you are destroying your own destinies and goals. What are you going to do? Blame it on the white guy? It's not going to happen. It's not going to fly. Spiritual awakening is in progress. A lot more people are learning what's really going on. It takes time, but it is progressing. Always observe responsibly. I know I'm just doing my little rant on that. However, I just checked out some of these areas here. And this one came from Claire Burnish from freethoughtproject.com. I know there's a video out there by Luke Rodowski on this too. But it says here, Soros hack exposes plot behind refugee crisis, his media control, cash for social justice. And as it says here, leaked files from billionaire globalist George Soros Open Society Foundation 2 days ago have exposed several startling machinations about the organization, including flagrant schemes to manipulate the media influence international immigration policy, and cash designated for social justice initiatives. Soros has been outed previously for pulling political strings in Ukraine, but as one memo revealed in the massive DC leaks cache shows, the globalists also sought direct manipulation of Western media to align with that political agenda. Titled The Ukraine Media Project, the memo's authors admit that this isn't proper independent journalism and we may damage our credibility with journalists, but that journalists may produce stories that have no relevance for the narrative we seek, or stories that are counterproductive, enforcing narratives of fascism, etc. In other words, Soros and his OSF acknowledge their designs in Ukraine could be conflated with fascism and thus, as he wrote, sought to elevate potential backlash or opposition by offering select journalists from target countries, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, Greece, and offer them long-stay reporting trips in Ukraine. Once finagled into the trip, the memo's authors decided rather than dictating content directly, they will retain a vote on stories we think are counterproductive. Currently listed under memo's pro sections and the fact the schemes is a similar approach so to what we have done for other press trips, and that is the Ukraine trip would provide an opportunity to build relationships with journalists and news outlets. Yeah, let's go. Hire them as prostitutes. Hurrah, hurrah. Judging by the degree of influence Soros thought those relationships wouldn't amount just a drink after a hard day's work. In fact, the under the cons portion the author's laminate, specifically the potential for the trip to enforce the narrative GS/OSF manipulation, because that's exactly what it would be. That's the question. Another portion of the Soros leak concerns Europe's immigration crisis, which OSF argues should be just accepted as a new normal. On May 12th, OSF Program Officer Anna Crowley and Program Specialist Kate Rosen co-wrote a memo entitled Migration, Governance, and Enforcement Portfolio Review, focusing on the OSF International Migration Initiative created to influence world immigration policy, as the Daily Caller first reported. The outlet reports the 9-page review makes 3 points. OSF, which doles out millions to left-wing causes, has been successful at influencing global immigration policy. Europe's refugee crisis presents new opportunities for the organization to influence global immigration policy, and the refugee crisis is in the normal. Crowley and Rosen write that the review seeks to consider the effectiveness of the approaches that we have used to achieve change at the international level. Anyone unaware how far Soros' fingers stretch into global policy making should consider the section of the review highlighted by the Daily Caller titled Our Work, which describes how OSF has worked with the leaders in the field to shape migration policy making and influence regional and global processes affecting the way the global migration is governed and enforced. The authors continued, our premises for engaging in work related to governance what was, in addition to mitigation, the negative effects of enforcement. We should be supporting actors in the field proactively seeking to change the policies, rules, and regulations that govern migration. We also believe that advances at the regional or national levels could create impetus for policy change, implementation of existing norms at the national level. We deliberately avoided the term global governance because there is no single system at the global level for managing migration. Future IMI has to be selective and opportunistic, particularly at the global level, in supporting leaders in the field to push thinking on migration and better coordinate advocacy and reform efforts. We support initiatives, organizations, and networks whose work ties directly to our aims in the corridors. Zero Hedge reported on a third aspect of the leak in a memo concerning the United States, indicating potential funding of the Black Lives Matter movement by Soros, though the connection appears hazy at best, providing $196,000 in funding for the Baltimore Education Research Consortium, a joint project of the city's public schools and Johns Hopkins and Morgan State University's one memo states to support American Journalism Review's series of articles on the crisis in American journalism with a focus on, among other things, coverage of federal agencies and state governments including Maryland, $200,000 Strategic Opportunities Fund 2009. A second part of that memo states, throughout its 15-year history, U.S. programs has complemented its national work with state and local grant making. The Emma Lazarus Fund, the Southern Initiative, the Program on Reproductive Health and Rights, and the Youth Initiative all had a strong presence in states like Louisiana, North Carolina, Texas, New York, and California. In this way, U.S. programs has not only advanced core priority issues at the national level, but has also worked to enable local and state actors to play a more critical role in shaping discussions around criminal justice, drug policy, immigrants' rights, government security, and other key issues at the state level. Obviously, the given enormous size of the document cache published by DC Leaks, an untold number of other Soros manipulations will likely be revealed in weeks to come. This is what has been going on, and I know, like I said before, they've been talking about other stuff got leaked, including controlling Hillary Clinton. That's from We Are Change. You can look that up. It's not hard to find. And a lot of us knew that Jorge Soros, I like to call him Jorge, because he always sold himself as a collaborator to the Nazis, during that time, the regime over Germany and across Europe. Well, man, just another Uncle Tom, I would say, with lots of money, which will all kiss the floor he walks on. Please spare me the moment. But we all know one thing. He is part of the mind control puppeteering. And another bend over Bob to the New World Order who has lots of money, so we should all kiss the floor he walks on. Otherwise, just go down the toilet and flush it and take a dump and do it again. Yeah, so I have to always look at these clowns. So I guess you call it a global inside job. All right, next one here came from a good colleague of mine named Mark Pilling. Haven't seen him around a lot. It's been a long time. Hopefully he's doing well. We used to call him Magnum PI, ladies' man with the strut muscle bound. However, he does have passion on being a free thinking individual, and he wrote this from the Truth Seekers Unite. That's from Meetup.com. He posted on Facebook, and I'm really, really very pleased. It came out yesterday, and it says here, no-fly list. Did Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel intentionally misled citizens? And it says here, at a town meeting recently in Cooper City, Florida, Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel sarcastically asked the audience the question, can anyone tell me why on the no-fly list is still allowed to buy a gun? Congratulations, Mr. Sheriff Israel. You're just admit to say that you're a bend over Bob and proud. I'm going to continue on here, sorry. I was ready to jump out of my seat to give him the answer, but you weren't looking for an answer. It's obvious that you're making a statement implying that our nation is a bunch of idiots for not taking the Second Amendment rights away from those on the no-fly list. Sadly, most of the sheep and your panelists nodded in agreement. Moo, moo. Man, if I would have been there, I'll be laughing at him. I go, hey, so how'd it feel being a Homeland Security's bellboy there, Scott Israel? You know what Israel in Hebrew means? Struggling with God. And of course, he has video links on here on habeas corpus, what it means, history of habeas corpus. You guys can read it yourselves, look at it yourselves. Of course, number 2, due process is part of the Constitution that you took an oath on to defend. And that's a fact. And it has all this information. Habeas corpus and due process of law are both fabrics of our nation and enshrined in our Constitution. Sheriff, you are railing against the very document that you swore an oath to defend. And you know what? Article 2, Section 5 of the Florida Constitution. And anyone who lives in Broward County or lives in Florida can get that oath of office, which he signed before he got installed as sheriff for Broward County. You can go to the Broward County Government Center and ask for it. Pay a little fee, public information, my friend, under Article 1, Section 24 of the Florida Constitution as well. So we'll continue on here. And since Sheriff Israel, I believe, as Sheriff, you are privileged to more information about the no-fly list in the public and know what I'm going to tell you now. The problem with the no-fly list and government watch list, according to the ACLU, it does not allow habeas corpus or due process of law. Our nation's watch listing system is error-prone and unreliable because it uses vague and overbroad criteria and secret evidence to place individuals on a blacklist without a meaningful process to correct the government error and clear their names. The government contends that it can place Americans on a no-fly list for who have never been charged, let alone convicted of a crime, on the basis of prediction that they nevertheless pose a threat, which is undefined, of conduct that the government concedes may or may not occur. Criteria like these guarantee a high risk of error, and it's imperative that the watch listing system include due process safeguards, which it does not. In the context of the no-fly list, for example, the government refuses to provide even Americans who know they are on a list with full reasons for placement, the basis for the reason, and the hearing before a neutral decision maker. That's from the ACLU's website. And it says here, as I thought of your question and was writing this response to you, you realize you have been in law enforcement for over 33 years? Sheriff Israel, you must know how habeas corpus and due process law much better than me. You must know what an integral and important part of our nation they are. I would hope that you know it is part of a constitution that you took an oath to defend. Why then did you ask such a blatantly un-American, unconstitutional question? I cannot believe that a 33-year veteran of law enforcement and one with privileged information about the no-fly list can be so naive. The only thing I can think of this that you were intentionally misleading the sheep. Please write me back and let me know if I am missing something, or if you have another explanation. He'll have someone else write for him because he's a confounded coward, as far as I'm concerned. I say that in good faith. Let him write the letter by Sheriff Scott Israel, not any of his sidekicks from the Broward Sheriff's Office, okay? No, the no-fly list is relatively secretive to the public, and I'm sure you're privileged to have more information regarding than me. But I have heard several times in the media that only 2% of the on the no-fly list consists of American citizens or permanent residents. I also know that only citizens and permanent residents can legally purchase guns. In order to purchase a firearm in the U.S., you must be a resident of that state in which you are buying it and be able to prove that residency. As a tourist is not a resident of the state, they are unable to purchase firearms. But again, you must know this. So your big dramatic question only revolves around 2% of the entire no-fly list. As non-residents, the other 98% cannot legally purchase a gun already. Are you relieved? The no-fly list is reminiscent of the no due process tyrannical dictatorship Americans fought against 240 years ago. The 2% could change soon, though, as Americans realize their leaders have been overspent $1 trillion a year for 15 years, have accrued $20 trillion in debt. There are two ways to conquer and enslave a nation. One is by the sword, the other is by debt. John Adams, 1826. Good work there, brother. Continue to regularly lie to them. Force unfettered immigration onto our land. We already immigrated as much as all other nations combined, and over 1 million illegally each year, and continue to work against the balance of separation of power while working for consolidation power through the United Nations and unions of nations like the European Union. The no-fly list directly contradicts habeas corpus, the U.S. Constitution, due process of law. All are fabrics of our nation. The ACO explanation proves the no-fly list is un-American because it has no due process of law. Personally, Sheriff Israel, I believe your question statement was as well. I hope, After all this information, you know better and agree with me. Due process of law, things like habeas corpus and individual rights exist for a reason. There has never been nor ever be a legitimate reason for government to have the power to take rights away for someone who has never been charged, convicted, or even accused of a crime. Losing rights for being on an FBI watch list or no-fly list because government decides you should be there is authoritarian and a very slippery slope. Folks who wrote the Constitution were specific and precise, are not allowing government to infringe upon their rights for reasons. Most people have been dumbed down to injustice and tyranny that most Americans are ignorant of today. I believe it is our duty as citizens to educate others and hold American leaders' feet to the fire. I have added important additional information below for you and others. Sincerely, Mark Pilling, Cooper City, Florida, and he has stuff on here about here's a gun owner whose name was on the government watch list. It was Dr. Martin Luther King, and there's other stuff here about Truth About Terror watch list, NRA, so all that good stuff. So interesting, and I have to give him credit, Mr. Pilling, for write that great letter, and I hope Sheriff Scott Israel will actually read this and correspond on his own without his little pipsqueaks, pencil neck sidekicks to do the job for him. So, bravo there, my friend. One thing you gotta really look at, too, and I want to check this out for the moment on Black's Law Dictionary. What is a citizen? So, I'm gonna take the initiative in doing that. And here's the mistake Scott Israel made with that rhetoric. The election year for his position is happening right now. And he could be in jeopardy during the general election. And you know what's funny about that, my friends? The people vote on the sheriff. He's not a police chief. He's supposed to be one of the most powerful servant, okay, in that particular county or jurisdiction. So, but one thing you have to look at about citizen is an interesting definition here under the Law Dictionary, which is based from the second edition of the Black's Law Dictionary. And let's just check this out. Yeah, I'm a little bit slow here. And no, I just want a definition of a citizen, not all mumbo jumbo garbage. Alright, and they don't really have it. Hey, what is a citizen? Gotta find it, my friends. Just hang tight. If not, we'll just proceed. It's not a major headache. But, we just gotta see if we can find it one more time. What is a U.S. citizen here? I'll be the first thing. What is a U.S. citizen? Or citizenship, or whatever you want to call it. How to gain U.S. citizenship? Oh, I'll worry about that later. I should have pre-did this before making any decision making, so but there are times, my friend, you got to really look at all these areas, and especially with your servants, and they assume that you're just a bunch of confounded morons that have an IQ of a turnip. But same old song and dance, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna define what citizen means. Hold on, let's check it one more time. What is a citizen? Shoot. What is a citizen? It sounds real special, What's a citizen? Hey, I'm a natural born person, freedom lover and sovereign thinker. That's what a citizen is, my friend. Okay, let's go. What they say, right? Alright, let's say a little dictionary. A native or naturalized member of a state or nation who owns allegiance to its government and is entitled to its protection. So that's what it really means. Yeah, civilian, all that good stuff. Pretty insulting. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna say that's a nice little letter there, my friend. I give him credit. Check it out, man. Go there. I'll add the link to that. Truth Seekers Unite. Bravo, Mr. Pilling. Even though I make fun of you at times, but you did a good job there, my friend. All right. Next one here is pretty disheartening, and it came from the Digital Journal, and it's by Karen Graham. It says here, number of people with cancer related to 9/11 attacks increasing. I know a lot of us have addressed that. And it says here, September 2016 will mark 15 years since the terror attacks on U.S. soil on September 11, 2001, but thousands of people are still feeling the effects of that day on their health. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, World Trade Center Health Program provides healthcare, medical monitoring, and treatment to thousands of people directly affected by the 9/11 attacks. As of June 30th, this year, the CDC says over 5,400 people have been enrolled in the program, all of them suffering from form of cancer directly related to 9/11 attacks. According to the CDC statistics, that is 3 times the number of people diagnosed with cancer since 2014, when 1,822 have signed up in the program. The CNN News points out that the number of people with cancers related to the 9/11 attacks is probably even higher than the CDC is reporting, because many people have chosen not to enroll in the federal health program. Christy Spring, the public affairs specialist for the CDC's National Institute for Occupation Safety and Health, says we continue to do an outreach efforts to see who is eligible and out there. Between 2013 and 2016, the number of people enrolling in the CDC's program has increased an average of 1,500 per year. Among those in the program, 4,692 are first responders, emergency responders, recovery and cleanup workers, and volunteers who help in the aftermath of the attacks at the World Trade Center and Pentagon and the crash site near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Remaining 749 people are survivors who lived, worked, or went to school near the attack sites. Of the 5,441 people with cancer diagnosis, almost half between the ages of 55 and 64, and a total of 6,378 separate cancers were diagnosed, meaning that a number of people have more or one or more types of cancer. According to the Sun, it is now believed that more than 50,000 types of cancers could relate to the toxic smoke, dust from the attacks. World Trade Center Health Program actually has over 75,000 people enrolled in this healthcare program. In addition to those with the cancer link to the 9/11 attacks, there are over 12,000 people with mental health issues related to the attacks, and over 32,000 have been diagnosed with respiratory digestive issues such as asthma, chronic cough, gastroesophageal reflux disorder, or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or heart disease, which is COPD, connected to the attacks. It is believed that the smoke and extreme amount of dust and debris released into the air after the attacks on the World Trade Center were carrying carcinogens and toxic pollutants. Oh, really? Look, I'm really shocked. Come on. Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center oncologist Dr. Larry Norton has said publicly there was every reason to expect that the debris released in the attacks could have been carcinogenic. Well, what gets me, because when that whole thing, whether it's collapsed or dusted, it's been, like you say, a chemical. Some people may call it the chemical warfare attack on that city, which there's some claim that the United States were involved. One world order don't matter. And many of the first responders have passed away, have died. And that's what got my attention when listening to Chrissy Todd Whitman, who was only a patsy, by saying about the air, you should have nothing to worry about. I almost fell off my chair. Go, is she out of her effing mind? I did not buy the monumental deception Now, many beautiful, great folks out there are suffering from it. Donna Summers died from lung cancer, and she used to live in New York City, if I'm correct, around that area, which is now ground zero. This is why, my friends, when it comes to government, you can't trust these bastards by any means. And I say that all in good faith. That's why I'm always vigilant and fair. It's completely unacceptable. Completely. And that's why it's very disturbing. And because how many other people are going to suffer? How about the children that are born and they're under those conditions when that happened? It's not gonna be pretty in New York City, with all due respect. But hope to pray for these folks. Doesn't matter if you love them, hate them, don't matter. No one should suffer from these conditions. It's completely condemning. And I'm gonna move on here. This one came from Futurism.com. It says here, Fuchsia, Google is building a new operating system, but no one knows what it's for. Google quietly uploaded the code for a mysterious new OS in their repository and on GitHub, but they're not saying what it's for. Goodbye in Linux, okay? It says here, Google appears to have started building a new OS. They quietly posted a pile of code under the name Fuchsia in their code repository and on GitHub, but they haven't said a word what it's for. The odd part is that while the OS can run on both phones and PCs, isn't related to Android or Chrome OS, and Google's statement about the OS doesn't help with figuring it out. Pink plus purple equals Fuchsia. With Fuchsia, the company seems to finally be parting ways with their long-term partner Linux, since the new OS does not rely on Linux kernel, the core basic code running both Android and Chrome OS. Instead, the new OS uses Magneta as an in-house project created by Google that seems to be aimed more towards exploring the possibilities of machine learning and intelligence. Yeah, you see that? Artificial intelligence theories. People have been discussing theories of Fushia's purpose in online threads. So some believe that it's Google's attempt to unify Chrome OS and Android into single OS, a rumor that has been circulating since last year. Based on its usage of Magneta, we can assume that it's Fuchsia. Fuchsia is made to be lightweight but capable, since Magneta is a medium-sized microkernel designed for use in embedded systems, such as in digital watches. Consistently, Fuchsia's developers list includes Christopher Anderson, who worked on the company's Android TV and Nexus Q projects, and Brian Sweatland, a senior software engineer at Google. Both developers are experts in embedded systems. When pressed in an IRC chat, Sweatland reportedly said the decision was made to build an open source, so it might well start there from the beginning. Other guesses including augmented reality and virtual reality applications, but it seems Fuchsia is being tested on all sorts of systems, including an Asus Switch, Alpha laptop, and will soon have support for a Raspberry Pi 3. After all, Magneta is a highly capable software that targets modern phones and modern personal computers. Who says that it can all do? Can we say self-programming intelligence? Oh yeah, so they don't want to specify, but remember Google, they want to be the next Skynet, I would say. Control the world, allegedly speaking. But the whole thing you gotta look at is who is actually trying to call the shots. Remember, they didn't talk about Google, using their search engine. They save all these databases. They just save all that stuff. So this is interesting. Like I said, so we got a lot of speculations, but possible potential theories. I just got to leave it at that. But always remember, friends, stay vigilant when it comes to Google and any other software. All right, this one here came from rnif.com, which is actually real independent news in film. All right, and this one's entitled Obama Gave $1 billion to private prisons, bypassing law amid 2014 immigration report. So, and who wrote this? Let's find out. Bum, bum, bum. They don't want to say who wrote it, huh? Oh, well, we'll just we'll just proceed here, my brothers and sisters out there. And it says here, the Obama administration bypassed public bidding laws to seal a $1 billion deal with the largest prison company in the U.S. All handle a surge of immigrants from Central America. A new report reveals critics say the measure has been ineffective. Correction Corporation of America, or CCA, linked a lucrative 4-year contract to build a detention center at the South Texas Family Residential Center, which would accommodate women and children seeking asylum in the U.S. However, according to the Washington Post, it was a unique deal between government and private prison companies because, in the words of U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement, which is ICE, a fixed monthly fee for use of the entire facility, regardless of the number of residents. Unlike hundreds of other detention contracts, which normally depend on occupancy, CCA received a fixed 100% monthly pay of $20 million, despite its 2,400 bed facility in Dilley, Texas, being a handful. Such sparseness had only positive influence on the CCA, flat for 5 years straight, according to the Post. In 2015, CCA's income added 14% just from its Dilley Detention Center, one of the company's 74 running facilities. At the same time, under the same circumstances, the government lost out, according to a Post calculation, when 22,400 people are detained at the CCA's facilities. The government spent $285 per day per person, but when the center stays half full, this amount doubles. Compared to compare daily expenditures at 209 family immigration detention sites stand between $60 to $85 per detainee, according to ICE. If you need an air conditioner today, you're going to pay what the AC guy tells you. Phil Miller, an ICE Deputy Executive Associate Director, told the Post, justifying his agency's decision. If it's December, you want a new AC unit be in place by June, you have more time to research. However, such a sweet arrangement for the CCA is not only unique thing about this government deal. Facing an increased flow of Central American immigrants, the Obama administration grabbed a pitch by CCA with decades of experience. CCA was seen by ICE as a trusted company with means to build a new facility quickly. There was a just public bidding process, a requirement that would delay the deal and thus postpone the construction, something that the Obama administration, struggling to tackle the immigrant crisis, could not afford. Then CCA came to rescue with its workaround. In December 2014, a CCA executive came to an Arizona town of Eloy, where the CCA has been operating a detention center for undocumented men since 2006, and pitched a new opportunity to its officials. The company offered to modify its contract with the town, making it look like an agreement expansion with a new order to build another facility some 1,000 miles away. In turn, the town will receive a small percentage. In that case, the federal government would be freed from the bidding process. Harvey Krause, the Eloy city manager, told the Post that at the time he told everybody, "We're not taking a position, we're just a fiscal agent." The federal government was in a hurry, and this was an expedited way for them to get it done. The plan was worked out in 2 separate contracts between ICE and Eloy and CCA, both which were signed on the same day, referred to the family detention center in Dilley. The dual agreement essentially offered each side its benefits. ICE provides the money to Eloy and got to work with CCA while Eli received a small administrative fee for being a party to the deal. Hooray, your tax dollars at work, America. Of the United States, that is, a federal corporation. This is the arrangement of a no-bid contract by twisting and distorting the procurement process past recognition, said Charlie Teifer, University of Baltimore Law School professor and former solicitor and Deputy General Counsel of the House of Representatives, told the Washington Post. The South Texas Family Residential Center opened in December 2014, but failed to operate the way the government expected it would, in part because detention rules for women and children have changed. Critics now say that the government could have chosen a much more cost-effective alternative. For most part, what I see is a very expensive incarceration scheme that says Representative Zoe Lofgren from California, the top Democrat on the House Immigration and Border Security Subcommittee, is costly to the taxpayers and achieves almost nothing other than trauma to already traumatized individuals, according to the Post. CCA's chief executive Damon Henniger informed investors that the ICE recently began pushing for a more cost-effective resolution. The CCA declined Post's request for comment. According to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection data, 27,754 unaccompanied children were taken into custody by officials between October 2015 and March 2016, representing a 78% increase from 2015 figures. Since the beginning of 2016, the Obama administration has conducted nationwide raids of immigrant communities, particularly immigrants who entered the U.S. after January 1st, 2014, have been received orders of deportation since then. The raids have been widely condemned as punitive and inhumane. A recent lawsuit shed light on the government's deportation tactics, accusing the feds of using unconstitutional and deceptive schemes to detain more than 120 women and children in one of the raids. But the Obama administration defended its recent raids, saying that the following guidelines to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security adopted in November 2014. In 7 years of his presidency, President Barack Obama has overseen the removal of more than 2.4 million immigrants, earning him the Deporter of Chief label. Hell yeah. So it's just people tell me how great this guy is. You know what? He's nothing. But it's the fascistic way. Remember that, my friends. And this is why when people ask me about Barack Obama, and even I may have my differences with Webster Tarpley. You know what? He's right. He's a fascist. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So you gotta always look at these things a lot bigger. And the truth of the matter is, private prisons system is such a scam. And Geo Group, and of course Correctional Corporations of America always have a little contract with the states that you have to fill these prisons up to 85%. And you know what that means? Victimless crime laws. All these little picking, no victim crime moves, okay, or programs. So, hey, the tax dollars at work. How come I don't see people talking about Barack Obama being a piece of garbage? If it was someone like John McCain, all people would be throwing maggots at him, and the mainstream media will be going after him like parasites. So you know what? It's pure hypocrisy. And that's why I did not support this man in 2008 or the 2012 elections, and I have no shame to say that. All right? So, just another bend over Bob to the New World Order. Hallelujah. Flush the toilet. All right, finally, this came from Michael Snyder from the mostimportantnews.com, and it says here, ISIS has a new focus, killing Christians and bombing churches wherever they can find them. And it says he made a statement: if you're a Christian, ISIS wants to kill you. Our politicians keep telling us that our battle with ISIS is not a religious war, but to ISIS, it most certainly is. As you will see below, ISIS has a new focus. They are very clear about the fact that they tend to kill as many citizens of the cross, and they possibly can, and they plan to bomb churches wherever they can find them. In the previous article, I explained, which is a link for that, on how an entire church in the U.S. ended up on an ISIS kill list. And we just saw in France that they're willing to strike anywhere at any time. Religious targets now appear to be top priority for ISIS, and that means that every church and every Christian in the Western world needs to start thinking differently about security. Let's start by taking a look at what's happening in Africa. Boko Haram's brutality has made headlines all over the planet, and the infamous terrorist organization has pledged complete loyalty to ISIS at this point. In the past, Boko Haram has hit both Christian and Muslim targets, but now the new leader of Boko Haram is promising to follow ISIS guidelines and to focus primarily on bombing churches and killing Christians. Earlier this month, a man named Abu Musab al-Barani announced that he had taken over the infamous Boko Haram organization, and his first message as Boko Haram's leader was it was as clear as it was concise. On his watch, the group's main focus will be killing Christians. According to an interview published this month by the self-proclaimed Islamic State group, al-Barani threatened to bomb churches and kill Christians, but will no longer attack places used by Muslims. During the interview, Abu Musab al-Abrani went on to say that his organization will be booby-trapping and blowing up every church we are able to reach, and killing all those who find from citizens of the cross. There are millions upon millions of Christians in Nigeria and in other African nations where Boko Haram is active. Let us hope and pray that Boko Haram is not able to carry out the types of attacks they are now promising. And of course, this isn't just Africa the Christians need to be concerned. The latest of the official ISIS magazine, called The Big, is urging Muslims in the Western world to copy the recent church attack in France. So it's more of a psyops program, okay? On that day, he announced as Boko Haram's new leader, ISIS used the latest issue of The Big to paint Christianity as a false religion and Christians as cross worshippers. Encourage Muslims to attack churches in a similar way to the atrocity in France's last month, where two men entered a Catholic church in a small town of Normandy, slit the throat of an 86-year-old priest, and gravely wounded a nun. We need to understand that ISIS is not necessarily looking to hit political and military targets. They are openly telling us that religious targets are now a priority, and they could literally strike anywhere in the entire country. Thousands of American Christians have already been put on ISIS kill lists, and ISIS have already instructed their operatives to kill those that they can. The following comes from an excellent article by Bethany Blankley. According to a report recently made public early this year, ISIS specifically identified 15,000 Christian Americans for death and instructed jihadists already in America to begin widespread murder. The kill list comes in the wake of ISIS already publicly warning American and British Christians they were next. British police last week publicly warned its 5.4 million Christians to be on alert in some areas, increase security. Well, just start giving them firearms, you bunch of Yahoo wanks. And there have already been some very close calls. In fact, if the authorities had not intervened earlier this year, a church in Michigan could have been the scene of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history. And there's a link for that too, so you have to look it up. In February, Khalid Abi-Yaran, 21, of Dearborn Heights, Michigan, was arrested after he told an undercover FBI agent he was preparing to shoot up a major church near his home on behalf of ISIS. Yeah, but I'm just wondering how his IQ is. A month earlier, Reverend Roger Spardlin of Valley Baptist Church, one of the biggest congregations in Bakersfield, California, told attendees that they had received a threat written in Arabic. Today, churches all over America are hiring armed security guards and are holding self-defense classes. When I was a child, I never would have imagined in my wildest dreams that someone would come in and start shooting during a church service. But times have changed. To an Islamic terrorist, a church is a target that will bring you a lot of glory. And here in the Western world, we need to understand that. And of course, it isn't just Islamic terror that we have to contend with these days. Everywhere you look, traces of your Christian faith are being removed from public life, and those that want to freely exercise their faith are being suppressed. There are children being prohibited from writing Merry Christmas to soldiers, senior citizens being banned from praying over their meals in the senior center, the VA banning the mention of God in military funerals, numerous attempts to have veterans' memorials torn down if they have any religious symbols such as a cross, and I could go on and on, said Liberty Institute founder Kelly Shackelford. As I was writing this article, my internet suddenly went out. One moment it was working, and the next moment it was not. In the same way, we need to realize that a single moment can change everything. Even moments before the attacks, nobody suspected that anyone would strike a Pulse nightclub in Orlando or a sleepy little church in the French countryside. But those attacks did happen, and without a doubt, there will be even more horrific Islamic terrorist attacks here in the United States in months and years to come. We need to be vigilant. We need to be on guard because times have changed, and there really are people out there to attend to kill us as they can. This is just another example, my friend, of clashing civilizations. And like I say, if you hear my shows in the past when I talk about ISIS, it is a one world funded entity. Because if you look at their flag, some of their flag with the golden ridges, there's someone out there funding them big time. And what's their goal, in my view? A one world religion. Have all the countries be divided into 10 regions, the Club of Rome. Many people out there, like this, including the Christians, are being crucified. They're just examples. You hear that, you see that all the time. You know, even with Islam and all that, it can go on, and I can go on and on, but I'll be ranting too much. But being vigilant is important, and that's why. And I even recommend look up the St. James Church massacre. I'm not saying the people that attacked that church were Muslims. Has nothing to do with that at all. But it happened over there during the post-apartheid. And Mr. Charles Van Wyck, he's a pen pal on Facebook, by the way, took the initiative on saving over 900 lives. So yeah, self-defense is a right thing to do. Doesn't matter what your creed is. Everyone needs to be ready. Because who wants to benefit? The global government that don't give a damn about any single one of us. And I tell these folks here, if you're going to pledge your allegiance to this particular organization, that's like the other Charlton groups, you're just pawns of the game, and they don't give two craps about you regardless. You are expendable garbage. And that is all I'm going to be saying. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to this show, and plus feel free to download and share this, including the rest of my archives. You can find it on Spreaker.com. Circulate it throughout your social media network. I think I said share and circulate twice. Very similar. All right. If you have any comments and questions, whether it's positive or negative, or you want to send me some information that would be interesting, I may check out. Whatever you do, please address it with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, and Scene.life. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3, which is all together with the number 3, at gmail.com. Well, no music for this show, so that's all I gotta say. All right. Once again, thank you for your time. But always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.